What's going on, Workforce? Brian here.
Chris here.
And today we're talking about what we know about patch 4.2 in Final Fantasy XIV.
So with that, let's dive in.
Oh yeah. Anyway, guys, so patch 4.2 is going to obviously be coming soon in the new year. And one of the things that we're going to do actually at the end of this video, and we'd love to know your thoughts, is we're going to try to guess what day that is. We think there's a couple of really good contenders, but at the end of the day, again, it should be all fun and games. We won't know until January, when to expect patch 4.2. But next week, December the 15th, there is a new live letter basically going to be covering patch 4.2 part 1. In which Yoshi
now, that won't be the patch notes,
No.
but that'll be a big lead into the major concepts that we can expect to see and kind of teasing us towards the things we can be excited about that won't have a major effect on the game as it sits today. They won't do anything that affects the way you use the market boards or anything like that, so you can't speculate on items.
You can try. You
can try.
So, but they'll typically use this time to obviously show us some things, but most stuff ends up usually being like, here's a screenshot, here's some looks into some stills as to what some of these systems.
I always appreciate how many surprises there are in the patch notes, and there'll be all these little things, like they come out and they say something, and literally people are like, but what about this? You're not fixing it. And then in the patch notes, they're like, yeah, we were. We just didn't tell you. So
there's obviously, what we're going to do here in this video is we're actually going to start to talk about what we actually do know and what they've been discussing, for a while, that they've said, either is going to be in 4.2 or they've discussed it and kind of hinted that it could be in 4.2. So there's really two sections: confirmed, what they've said, and what we can, what we can reliably expect, and then basically a discussion about maybe what's not confirmed or what's...
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So to lead in, the most obvious stuff is obviously we're going to get 2 dungeons and a new trial. We don't know what those are. And we should get a new tier of Omega.
Right.
That's pretty basic information.
And that's a pretty big content chunk
about
when you think about it.
All the 4.0 major patches will have this format.
And so the reason we're getting 2 dungeons is because they said that on the odd patches we'll get 1, and on the even we'll get 2 going forward. So this is a 2 dungeon patch. So 2 dungeons for the price of 1 patch. And then, like you said, Omega is actually, I think, really exciting to me.
Yeah.
Omega, I
have loved all of the content in Stormblood so far.
Yeah.
So I'm excited anywhere they're adding more party content. As long as they can keep that pace up, I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. So then after that, the biggest thing, and this is really where we were actually having a conversation before we started filming, is Yoshi P has said that they're changing the Glamour system.
Now, the reason that's the biggest is because anytime there's a conference, I would appreciate questions like, how is your server structure changing? What are you doing about cross-servers merging? What are you doing about major content cycles? What are you doing about the distance between expansions?
Yeah.
And instead, there's always a question, will my green shirt still fit on the new class? So the Glamour system obviously matters to people because these questions get brought up all the time.
And so we don't know exactly what those changes are. They said they actually, and they kind of ninja'd in a lot of the code into the existing 4.1. Like basically 4.1 was this setup for 4.2, kind of almost like a breath in to 4.2 being this massive content dump. And then when it comes to the Glamour system, Chris, you had some thoughts about what you would like to see, and I know the community is not sure on ideas of what they want Glamour to be.
I think the biggest complaint about Glamour is, first of all, it's become one of the true endgame definitions of Final Fantasy XIV. And so you can't develop out the way people want to play your game. It doesn't work. You can't force people to play it differently.
Right.
So they need to embrace that. So it needs to be tied to some form of achievement system or something like that. Just embrace it as the end game that it is. And second of all, the problem with that is inventory management.
Yeah.
And so there needs to be some form of a library. And so what I picture is one of the problems with this game is because things spirit abound, right? And so much of loot is dungeon based that it doesn't really encourage the level of crafting, as if items could be traded, or if items broke down and wore out,
right,
or if crafting gear was the best gear. And so to encourage crafters, I would say you kind of download the item, you dissolve it, you eat it, just like when you recycle the gear for it, you break it down,
you convert it to Matera,
so there's
or whatever.
desynth, and there's all that you convert it to Matera, and there's all these ways to remove it. I would take another way to remove items, and you just kind of absorb it into your library, and as your library gets bigger, maybe there's like thresholds where it unlocks achievements that give you pieces of gear that can only be gotten by absorbing that.
Only Chris would. He's like, you love those achievements, man.
I do.
Nothing wrong with it. I love that idea in the fact that as you collected the gear, it ends up adding another collection element to the game. So we have mounts, minions, music.
So people go through and they just start buying things. There's a bad sword that's made by blacksmiths, and they're like, oh, well, that still sells because people are like, oh, well,
I'm gonna collect it. I'm
gonna have one sword short of unlocking my next Glamour sword.
Yeah.
So.
Oh man, and then if it unlocked Glamour in and of itself, you're right. That would be embracing the true end game.
Yeah.
Because
bro, it gives you like to glamour while you glamour.
Glamour Inception, bro. All right.
Now
so,
you had a complaint about it.
Oh yeah.
Is that
what
you don't like?
So the thing that I would like to see. So you bring up a great idea about libraries. I like. I'm not a big glamour guy, but what I like is I like to build out a set and then just apply that set to whatever I'm wearing. My gear, I got a new piece of gear that's better. Reapply my entire look, because if I'm going to take the time to make myself look a particular way, I don't want to have to like carry those inventory items. I don't want to have to remember what that was. I would rather just say, and even spirit bonding off your pay a piece, pay some gil.
Or they'd probably put a new currency in because they love their currencies.
No new currencies.
We'd have glamour coins.
Let's consolidate. Let's consolidate currencies. Let's Bitcoin this and just acquire the world. What I want is that just to sit here and just apply. I just like, oh, here
what am I missing?
Right, just like you have a gear set, have a glamour set, and it's just you just hit this, pay a fee, hopefully gil, because gil is almost becoming this useless. Not seals, not a new type of seal, no seals. But I would like that. That's what I would like to see with as they go forward with glamour. Now, what we do know, and Yoshi has said that it's changing, and that the changes are so vast that they're going to have to dedicate a lot of time, and they're going to spend some time. It could be on this stream that's coming up, or it could be at a later date where they're going to walk people through the system, and that's what they have to do. It's not as simple as to me, it does not lead that it's like, oh, it's just we've added in a new thing and then it does this. No, it sounds like they've like,
okay, we've over it. Translator going, and now they said they like that hair better than that hair.
You can glamour hair.
It's going to be that same ingredient. Like it's going to be that same screen, right?
Yeah,
I would assume that you're.
Who knows? I would like to see better glamour improvements to the summoner, because they gave us a text command and then one new glamour, and they said we're going to get more eggies each patch, and that's been this will be like 2 or 3 patches since then. Just saying, come on, Square Enix, I want.
Maybe you don't know the text commands.
They're
true. Easter eggs, and nobody's found them.
Come on, work the game. All right, so we talked about that. Let's talk about housing. You covered this a lot in the video
Housing
recently.
seems to be a huge subject always.
Yeah.
Because
the
there's
other
a
true
shortage. The other true in-game. And I think the issue with housing is they've said they're going to do new wards across all the zones, not just Shirogane. So the Shirogane ones will probably sell out first because that's the newest content. Everybody's like, oh, it looks better. It's like, well, it looks newer.
Right.
But it'll be across all 4. My question is, based on the phrasing, is it one amount to all servers, or is it based on the population at server? And if it is it based on the population as of 4.2, or is that something that's going to be ever changing?
I think the problem that in and of itself is that they have to, the biggest thing is they need to figure out the best way to deliver, because when people take time off work and they try to show up at, minute 1 and they can't do it because of connection issues, of being the system game getting DDoSed or whatever reason, that you're taking time out of your real life. It's impacting your real life to get a virtual house. Like, I don't know what the right solution is. Yoshi P says that
I only took a half day to buy my actual house. So to take any more than that to buy a virtual house, I'm not going to do it.
I don't know. Like, I would like to see some kind of system in which that it's like, almost like, hey, it's tied to achievements, it's tied to you being into the game for a certain period of time. So that way somebody just can't come in and transfer gil to an alt and then buy another house and, whatever reasons, etc. Who knows? We'll see. Have to see what happens here. Obviously, I think housing. The thing is because of the way they engineered it, I think it's always going to be a resource in demand, and the only solution is then to add in more, more opportunities to purchase, to the point where you'll devalue houses. They just need to flood the market with so much inventory.
Yeah.
That
every patch cycle until they notice that they're not getting bought anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, you know, I know a lot of people called for like instance housing and things like that, and that, I mean, that could solve it, but that's still.
Or one of the suggestions I really liked is different kinds of housing. So you know, kind of like not just apartments, but start to have things like, you know, little almost like duplexes where it's mostly like the kind of a yard for, because it's just gardening.
It's gardening is the thing that you, gardening is what you lose out on with an apartment.
I want gardening, enough room for
and
the
they
vendors.
give us flower pots to grow flowers, but you can't really grow, like, why not just upgrade those pots to be like, okay, now I'm going to plant this plant. And then,
I just want a greenhouse.
Yeah, there you go.
Even just a community garden. I just rent my plots. You know, that's all I want.
All right, so outside of housing, obviously, you know, we're going to learn more about that. I really, they've confirmed new wards are coming. I really do not hope that they spend the whole of the live letter talking about housing. Like,
housing and glamour.
I want to learn more about what they've got planned for the future of this game and things like that. And I'm just like, okay.
Well, Brian, mostly you're going to have a lot of new dresses and a few new maces and new houses.
We don't even have maces in the game. We need maces. Give us a mace class.
Only glamour maces.
Glamour maces. Well, they added scythes as a glamour, and you can use it for Dark Knight, but you have to pay money for it. People have been wanting it. Like, I want a scythe on a Dark Knight, and it's like, give me $5. And then so
no problem, man.
Yeah, no problem. Sure. Here you go. You need it. So and then we obviously getting new side story, new story and side story quests. We'll see. Who knows if we'll see the return of Hildebrand?
Hildebrand.
And then this is a big thing because you even asked me about it.
The only cutscenes I consistently watch. Everything else, I'm like, it isn't letting me skip, Brian.
And you're like Hildebrand. You're like, all right, this is great. Perform system is getting big updates. So if you guys aren't aware, Perform was added in 4.15. It allows you to play music, and they said that that's a beta. And then 4.2 is going to include big overhauls and changes and updates. Essentially, the problem is that like if we were to form a band in game, which we can do.
Maybe this is a Sims game. Somebody's comment on my other video was that this was just becoming a Sims game where people are getting married, buying houses, and glamoring. I was like, no, it's still. And now that we're talking through the patch notes,
you're like, wait a minute,
I was wrong.
He's on to something. But essentially, they want to do remove the packet loss so that we could actually hear each other without so much lag, so that we could sync up our music and playing. And they're going to add new instruments and things like that. Literally, it's the coolest thing for like role play. At the end of the day, like if you want to go, like I could envision you going into a tavern and there's the bard just like playing like an awesome song that maybe they wrote, because you can't use third part. Like you have to agree when you unlock Perform to agree that you will not play licensed music in the game. Because and it really relates to Japan's copyright laws. Like they are that severe. Like in America, everybody's like, all right, like okay, and then in Japan they're like, no, and they did a post that said, hey, this band has agreed to you can play this band's music in our game because they agreed that it's okay. Specifically. So I was like...
And only until patch 4.3.
And then, yeah, then the rights go away. And then any video that you've made, you got to delete. Anyway, so that's what we know. That's what's been, like, what we can consider hard confirmed. It's a pretty safe list based off of a lot of conversations and interviews. But then there's the other part, like we talked about. And so this is the, what's maybe been confirmed. I can't stamp it as a hard confirm.
And things we could expect. We've seen it. Yeah. We've seen these patterns leading up to this. Mm-hmm. It makes sense. It's been in previous things. It's been mentioned offhand.
And for months. Like some of this stuff goes back to like, hey, interviews back in when Stormblood launched. Like, yes, we're looking at that. We're targeting 4.2. And that's where I was like, they started talking about 4.2 sooner than I expected. Mm-hmm. And so the big one, Eureka. We know it was delayed, and they said they're going to show it off, but we haven't seen it. The fear that a lot of us have is it's the new diadem, and it's just going to be completely irrelevant after a little bit. But at the end of the day, they're tying in all their relic stuff to it, which could be interesting. They said there's a whole different progression system in Eureka, so we know that. Now
it's going to be 10 times the fates.
10 times. 10 times the fates. You're welcome.
You're going to have to fate while you fate.
Yeah, fate inception, bro. Call back to earlier. So essentially what you have is that, so Eureka, new progression. So the reason why it's not in the confirmed list is because is at 4.25. So some of this stuff, right. Sometimes they'll say, hey, 4.2.
We know it could be in the 4.x
series
cycle, right? We know that we'll get it before 5.0. Well, we know.
Yeah.
So it's just a question of when when is that? Is that time now? We can hope so, but we're still pretty early in 4.0, right?
Right.
2. So, submarines.
Yes. So,
for those of you that didn't get a chance to use airships,
you could now, or should be able to use submarines come 4.2, and this should tie in to Eureka, because the airships tied into the diadem. It would make sense that, in my mind, submarines tie into Eureka for some reason. Now, as to how the implementation, how it goes...
Right, and is this just literally the new diadem like it's the new maps? Does it just literally replace that and then one day becomes outdated?
That's the fear. That's actually, honestly, the thing I'm like, I just wish they would take the diadem stuff they did and just bring it into the open world onto all the maps and just make it a different color, fate color, or whatever. Anyway, that's could be a topic in and of itself for another video. But, okay, so, yeah, submarines, I honestly am not like, oh my gosh, submarines, but, if you are, that's awesome. I'm excited for you guys for that. But the thing that I'm excited about is, they've talked about this for a while, PvP team registration for the feast. One of our biggest complaints is that we can't feast together with, like you, Adam, and Todd.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about this because I think releasing it now as a feature is kind of a slap in the face. It's something that should have always been there, so I think of it more as a bug fix column.
Yeah, because they took away the ability to play as a 4-man.
And so now they're like, like never before, you're going to be able to play with your friends on an MMO.
Yay!
So
the concept, though, from
huge
a team
relief,
piece,
but really, it's more of, if you don't give this to me, I'll be frustrated. If you do give it to me, thanks, I guess.
We'll check it out and let you guys know what we think of it in the long run. The thing I like about it is it like, oh, we register 4 people for this team, or can we register more people and then you have like alternates? Like, hey, somebody wasn't able to show up, but you have to register as a team, and as a team, you rank up, or hopefully what we'll see, because they said other
and how many teams can you be on?
Right. Yeah, I'm interested. I'm very interested in learning more about teams. And again, they talked about it for 4.2, but we haven't heard much about it.
Separately? Will there be a 1's bracket, a 2's bracket?
I hope so. But on that note, other issues that we've had with PvP is the matching times and things like that, especially for the feast. And so they've talked about, and again, not confirmed for 4.2, but it could be cross data center PvP, meaning instead of just more people all in the queue, because and
as long as it doesn't affect latency, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I think, as a matter of fact, I think that's where one-day gaming is headed. As hardware infrastructure gets better, we're going to start seeing servers able to handle larger and larger loads. So games like MMOs that have long lives, the way that's going to translate is you're going to see servers start to merge more and more. So it's going to be, okay, cross-data PvP, now cross-data dungeons, now cross-data main cities, now, and next thing you know, they're just bigger, there's less and less servers, and you eventually move to hopefully like
just
one
massive mega data center servers, etc. And that's where I think the game's going, and it's just, like you said, over time, it's going to make that jump. And that's kind of the thing that we even have, they've talked about, we've seen every patch introduce more cross-server features. And so for those of you who might not know specifically what we're talking about, is that you have a data center which consists of varying servers, and anybody, like when we stream and we play, 14, if you're on our data center, we can play together. You don't have to be on our server. Data center, cross data center stuff means that, if you're right now, if we're on Aether, if you're on Primal, we cannot.
Right.
But cross data center matching and things like that would be huge, because especially
now it's not just you have to
Primal
be on
and Aether are right next to each other.
Right
Next to each other. Right. It's just a matter that they just don't know how to
physically
talk.
Located.
Yeah. They're all in California.
Just going to drape one big Ethernet cable.
That's all it was. Somebody forgot
with a sticky note that says PvP on it.
Somebody
don't pull this.
Somebody forgot to plug this in. Okay, hey, we fixed it. But the what this should do, because one of the issues, like back again when Stormlight first came out, it was like, all right, like the match times are nuts. Like eventually it's like, I'm not gonna log in and wait in queue for 10 minutes.
Piece of the population that outside of the physical distance between servers, outside of adding latency in for that distance, if you have servers that are located in the same location like this, doubling the population should not be hard on whatever server has to pick up that level.
That's going to help make faster match times, help, again, more population playing the content equals better matches, more competitive.
And so if there were more players, that would give them the ability to prepare for things like tournaments.
And that's one of the big pushes they keep talking about. Now, is this a part of 4.2?
They want people to dig into this. They don't want to just be a glamour and housing game. They want
PvP. They want the competitive market. And if you look at all the other games and multiplayer in general, it's it's good for the game. Whether you're interested or not, I think essentially I'm interested. I like competitive games, and I like to see, especially with the latest content with Rival Wings, but even seeing Feast make a big return, having tournaments that we can register for and compete in, whether as a team or individual. Sounds exciting, and then you have a spectator aspect that they can. Again, it will be interesting to see. I think Square Enix has a lot of work to do, and I don't know if 4.2 is that. Hey, we've heard you. We've been working on this for 9 months.
In that direction, like new updates to Frontlines, right?
And that's actually something they've talked about for 4.2.
Yes.
Now, as to what specifically updates, we don't know. Honestly,
and they separated that from Rival Wings.
I want to see Frontlines consolidated into one content type with the different maps. Yes. Because I don't want to just and a
lever penalty. So that I don't feel like I have to keep playing the same one, because if I go to play something different, it's just people leaving.
Well, and they can always rotate the stuff week to week. So it could be like, well, if you don't like Shatter, wait till next week, and it's the new rule set that goes week to week. But on that note, for Feast and for PvP, there seems to be 4.2 seems to also be a big PvP update in and of itself. They've talked about having it to where there are specific times they want people participating in Feast and Frontlines, thus saying if you want to progress, it's from this time to this time. And you had some thoughts before we started recording.
I think that's an interesting concept. I think it's something I've asked for. It's something we've discussed off camera. Is I've said it should be times, and the benefit of times is that you consolidate that population. You say they're all going to be here at the same time. And so you drop those wait times, and more importantly, when we were getting short wait times, we were getting put against the same people over and over
again.
We'd play them 5, 6, 7 times in a row, and then we'd just go do something else for the night.
Yeah.
And so by pushing more teams, the downside is anybody who cannot or will not play during that time window is now excluded from that content.
Right, and so you could run the risk of cutting
like a
out
Destiny 2 making Xur available on the weekends. What if it's somebody who can't play on the weekends? They just don't get Xur now.
Right.
And so unfortunately, knowing that there's certain nights I already have booked for other games that I play with other people, if they do this, I may have to sit PvP out on Final Fantasy. But as a player who's risking that, I can tell you I'm okay with it. Go ahead, because the alternative is that nobody's really getting to enjoy it right now.
Right.
And so until you have a population big enough that you can cover 24/7, I would start by saying it's Friday night and Saturday night, if those are their 2 big nights, and that's it. And then if you get a big response, maybe next patch cycle you can say, okay, also Sunday night. And then maybe you can say, okay, also Thursday night. And so you can start to expand that. But when you start to dilute it too much and you notice that those times start going up, you've got to bring it back in.
I think the other thing that we've discussed before that I'd like to see, and who knows, and this is just us in our own speculation at this point, would be show me what you need in the queue. Right now for roulettes, etc. Oh, you need a tank or a healer or a range DPS or a melee DPS. Tell me what is lacking, and I'll go as that. I just want to play. I just want to play.
Adventure in need. There doesn't even have to be a reward for it, honestly.
It just would tell me what to queue as, so that we can have some fun matches and go from there. But who knows what we'll see on that. Guys, I'd love to know what you guys are thinking on those notes itself. We got a few other minor notes here that from that's been discussed, like squadron updates, maybe adding in new dungeons.
I'd love to see a new beast tribe.
Yeah, new beast tribe.
Time.
The Anata are, obviously in my mind, the obvious choice for what we'll get. They tend to release them, so we got, the Kojin in 4.1. We should see the Anata in 4.2. And then who knows what else? Maybe another crafting one.
And so when would 4.2 be for you?
If I was going to guess a date, I'm going to pick a hard February 6th.
So he has been saying that date for weeks now, and so I have had the chance to decide if I'm over or under that date.
Yeah,
and I have decided.
The power.
I have decided that I am going to go over. We're going with whoever's closest. No Price is Right rules. No overage penalty. So I'm going to go with February 13th, and the reason I'm going with the 13th is I think this is a huge list, and so part of me thinks they can't hit it unless it's further out, so it's in my best interest that it's further into February, and that if I'm wrong, I just get to play the patch sooner.
Yeah, so it's a win-win
for me. So that is my safe bet.
So I'm the 6th, he's the 13th. We'd love to know your guess for when you think patch 4.2 will be released. We'd love to know also if we missed anything, if Yoshi P or the team have talked about any updates that you're excited about and we didn't mention them here. Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And then also keep an eye out on the 15th for the next live letter, which we'll actually start to see this content come to life. We won't get a date. They typically, I mean, who knows? They could surprise us, but typically they don't give us a date, an official date with part 1. We'll get that usually with part 2, along with
and part 2 is usually pretty close.
Yeah, and part 2 is not going to be that far along, especially because when you think about January and February, when we go into the new year, literally it's either January or February. If they go past February, that means that 4.2 is just super delayed.
And the reason I don't think it's 3.5 months. He's talked about the 4.0 cycle running longer than the 2 or 3.0 cycle, and I don't think that the total distance between expansions is something they're going to want to mess with a whole lot.
They like
so they got to keep this pace up. So if anything, they're going to want to accelerate the distance between these, so and that they don't have to end on the 0.55.
Yeah. And as the final note before we sign off for this video here, that could lead to, and they've discussed it, maybe a 4.6 or 4.7. And maybe that needs a video in and of itself as we move into and learn more about 5.0 in 2019.
Absolutely. So my name's Chris.
And I'm Brian.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Definitely let us know in the comments section below what you guys are thinking, what you want to see, what you know you'll see, what you don't think we'll see. We'd love to hear from you. And anyway, we'll see you next time.
Take care, guys.
You always talk last, so I just figure I can stop talking whenever, because you always say something after me, so I just
it's what is it, like one of those like compulsive like people, it's like I always have to have the last word. So I'm just laughing. I don't know, I'm gonna cut that. That's pretty funny.
Okay.